Futures Trader Elite here this morning to go over the NQ pre-market prep for 8/11/25. We're looking at the 1 hour chart this morning. I want to go over some measured moves on the 1 hour chart so that we can be looking at a possibility on the bullish side if the market wants to go up. Back here, the measured move, if you take the measured move from this trend line on the 1 hour to here, on that bounce from the trend line, we get our measured move. Then we're going to take that measured move, put it on the trend line right here where it come back and tested. The high of that lines right up with this bounce right here. From here, it come up, touched, went up. That's the exact move that we had from this touch on the trend line to here. So we're going to take that measured move and we're going to move it to here on the trend line where last time it touched on this. This is a 4 hour trend line down here. This low green trend line is 4 hour. Then you got this 1 hour. And then you got this blue line's a 15-minute. You could still take a 1 hour trend line and put it right here exactly where the 15 is because we're on the 1 minute chart or 1 hour chart. But this measured move right here will put us all-time high at 953. Of course, that don't mean that's going to happen. But for the bulls, depending on how NQ reacts when the market opens today, considering where we're at right now at 973, 738, that's just not that far away now. Even though that's just a measured move, that's something to keep in mind. You know, the all-time highs right here around 845 in this area, 846, something like that. It's not that far, so it's not out of question that we could get that high, to put in a new high to get that measured move before a pullback. If we can get that push today when the market opened, let's say, and it actually did make it to the 950 area, you would assume that if we did get that high, that it would probably try to sweep 24 because of the whole number, half number situations. 950, 952 is half number, whole number. Kind of act like magnets. But let's say we did push to that area, you could 100% think that we would pull back to this 4 hour because that would only be around 400 points if we went up there and then went back to the downside, and we would still be in this uptrend that we've been in since August, since the beginning of August here. Would be completely normal for that to happen. That's just one scenario. Looking at the 1 hour chart, you know, we still got to break above this 4 hour trend line. I moved it up after we broke through it. And then, of course, this is a 15-minute trend line I drew in on this chart. It may not be that significant. We don't have any zone boxes overhead. We just have our high. We break that high, though, I'd be watching that yellow line, possibly 24,000 on the bull side. So let's say that we can't crack that 4 hour trend line today. For some reason, we have a down day again. This is a 1 hour. We got a zone box here. The bottom of that is 620, which is about 100 points from where we are now. That'd be a place worth putting up some risk. Crossing that trend line, crossing through that zone box, I would definitely be looking at that. I really don't want to think about this 4 hour trend line. It's down there. I couldn't imagine we was going to drop 200 or 300 points this morning, but we could. But I would be, if we did, you should think that around 500 is going to stop it in that area. for the bounce. And then if we chop around and it gets up here, you would still, it would be 550 somewhere in there. You would think would stop it on that higher time frame. Maybe not. You never know what the news is going to do. So you got to be prepared in case it does drop and it breaks through that. I'd say the 50% fib on the 1 hour is a magnet to be looking at if we would break the 4 hour around 500. I would be looking for, of course, I mean, there's a zone box there, but that it would have to break as well before we got to the 50% fib. But 50% fib is at 308. That's a pretty good drop, but it's really only 400 points, and that's really not that much in NQ. Let's drop to the, I'm going to get rid of this chart. We'll look at the 5 minute, smaller time frame. I got some fibs already pulled on the 5 minute. This is pulled from the low overnight to the high. You can see we're sitting around, when I put them on, we was at the 50% fib. We've already climbed up above the next fib. So that was a pretty good move there for as low as the ATR is. ATR is only around 5.4. When I drew that on, I think it was 2 point something. But now let's look at this 5 minute chart, kind of look at what we got going on here, because some interesting stuff happened. Of course, last Friday, I quit pretty early. I took some trades off of 1 hour trend line back here before I got moved. But you see, overnight, we get up here to 773 was a high. And then look at this drop here and look what saved it. That yellow line from last Friday, which was a high that we had tested and tested, got rejected before we broke through back here. You know, Friday it rejected, come back down this zone box. We got back above it, but chopped around before we ever took off. If anybody was trading the session overnight, they should have known this zone box right here and that high from Friday that we had put in would have acted very much so as a magnet. All this would have for the drop overnight. Just classic NQ, drop to that, turn around and straight up 100 points pretty much. Yeah, 671 and 733. So what, 60 points straight up, something like that. I mean, that's a good bounce right there. Pretty much would be done trading for the day. You catch something like that or like this. And of course, this is looking good on the fibs. It's back above the 50% fib here on the 5 minute. Everybody has their own opinions about structure breaks, but I watch every type of structure break, and this right here is a structure break on the 5 minute. When it crossed the 61.8 on this line, this is a 5, to me would be a 5 minute structure break, because right here it tried to save itself before it went down. As soon as it broke that 61.8 right there, that would be a structure break to me. Breaking this 50% with this candle, structure break to me. Right here, we're getting another push. If we break this candle, another structure break on the 5 minute. And of course, from what we're looking at, it looks like it's going to come all the way up here and break here. If it does that, then the structure is 100% changed on the 5 minute, back into a complete uptrend, taking this, well, it had to take out this high right here. But, you know, whenever you find some consolidation like this right here on the downtrend, or these big red candles, it means there was a lot of selling pressure right there. So if you get back past that and look where these fibs are lined up with some of these drops, the 50 here is pretty much lined up there. The 61.8's lined up there. You got to take them and look at them a certain way, especially when you're trading on a lower time frame. Because I trade on the 1 minute, so let's go back down to the 1 minute, and I'll kind of look at how I would have traded that on the 1 minute. See all the confluence we got here in price trying to come down, and compared to looking at the 5 minute, we got a little bounce here to 61.8, chopped around a little bit, tried to keep coming to 61.8 before it dropped to this zone box and that previous high from Friday. Chopping around right here. This almost looks like it wants to set up for the inversion long. We got the bounce, chopped around, come test it again, still chopping. They're protecting it. To me, this screams all inversion long all day long. Of course, because of the session, time of day, and everything, you might not necessarily get an inversion long like that. I've never really played that session. You would think that would come in the New York session with more volume, more volatility, but this is a prime example. You can look at this over and over and see this set up multiple times. And then right here, as we try to come up and break out of the zone box, most definitely trying to break structure. It really didn't know till this candle right here. Broke through the 61.8, took out that wick. That's structure break. Stayed here for a minute. Looks like it liked it, so it kept on grinding up real slow, which the ATR is low, and that's what makes the difference in getting an inversion long here versus a slow grind up. If this was New York session and the ATR was 25, this green candle right here probably would have went up here somewhere, you know, above the 50 right there, but instead, slow grind. So if you can wait it out, you'd have to think, well, if I got in it down here somewhere, or say you wait until the structure break right here, and you come down to 61.8, and then you get this candle. That candle looks pretty bullish. Would have looked better had it took this out right here, but it didn't. But it got close. Chop around. You know, you see it get up here to the 50, start dancing around. You could move your stop up here somewhere. ATR is low. Chopping around on that 50. Still chopping on that 50. So if you left it there, you're still safe. You get over here, what's it do? Structure break. Structure break on the 50. Comes through the 38.2 up here. Pretty much structure. It's all structure break. What I would look at though, because I like to find some entries early. When we was back here looking at all this confluence of price right here, chopping around, I'd be watching these MACD signals. And you see this one right here got put in, and we're under the zero line. But this all looks good to me. No more long wicks down. You know, you see it keeps protecting itself right here. If this would have put a long wick in right here somewhere in this session, I might have been kind of weary thinking, well, you know, if they could get sell pressure in and wick on down some more here, maybe I would wait, but it couldn't get past this. It put in that buy signal on the MACD right there. Of course, that's below the zero line, which is a risky entry, not necessarily a plus setup. But then you got this one right here above the zero line on this green candle. I think that I would have risk taken that right there, because the way that looks, it broke through another fib, retested that push, you know, in 5-6 minutes it was straight back up, trying to come out of the zone box. And a lot of this depends if you trade MNQ or NQ. You can trade less MNQs and put up some more risk, whereas if you're trading NQ, taking early entries, you really don't want to get in more than one, especially if you're not comfortable with it. One contract is plenty. If we keep having this slow grind up, let's draw a little trend line here on the 1 minute back here. It's a pretty slow grind right now. It's kind of a situation where I would be paying attention to this trend line. If this, I don't really want to buy this up here and then it dropped back this trend line. I'd be looking for an entry around this trend line. This sell signal got put in on the MACD on the 1 minute. It's kind of in a downward move towards the zero line. So I'd kind of wait to see what that's going to do. The ATR is back down to 2.9 on the 1 minute. So, you know, this might be worth a trade. I don't think any of this is worth trading during pre-market right now. But if somebody wanted to, here's that heavy trend line, the 4 hour. You know, it's inside our fib up there. So wouldn't be surprised if we try to attack some new highs, to be honest. I'm feeling a little more on the bull side right now than the bear side, but that could change when the market opens, I guess. But that's what everything looks like on some of the higher time frames, and in the lower time frames. At the moment on the bearish side, if we did get bearish at the open of the market, I would expect this to protect it again, just like this did back here, which would be even better play if it were to come back and test this pivot point, which is a magnet at 679, 680. There's only about 10-point difference between that pivot point and this Friday's high that protected us back here. So me personally, if I see a pullback in the market this morning at the open, I'm targeting this pivot point to this line. I will fill that up with buy orders and put up the risk for a bounce right here, just like this bounce right here, all day long. The only way I would skip past not taking that trade is if the market opened and just pierced all the way down here super fast and went through it, like didn't even try to save. It would have to big candle, another big candle, and that big candle just shoot down and get down here. If it shot down and broke this real easy, real fast, I wouldn't do it. So I'd be paying attention to the speed coming down to that area before I put them orders in. If it's a down here and kind of bounces a little bit and then another drop and kind of bounces a little bit, tells me when it gets to that spot, it's probably going to bounce pretty hard. There's a lot of people sitting in this area right here, more than likely still. So that's all for NQ pre-market prep this morning. Like and subscribe, leave some comments if there's anything else you want me to go over. If let me know if any of this helped you out last week when we was trading, and let me know if this helps today. I'll be glad to keep putting these pre-market preps out in the morning. Until next time, I'll see you then.